Clip 116, brackets involving surds. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty of surds. This is quite a tricky clip to have a go at. So, if you see brackets, you follow the same rules as you have done for using brackets with algebra. That's the first part. The second part is to remember the rules for using surds. So let's just quickly recap those. So we said if we've got two surds that are the same, you times them together, you get the number underneath the root. We also said that we can take two separate surds and put them, times them together, and it's the same as just having that number underneath the square root. We also said we could take a root and split it up into a square and a non-square number. So root 25 times root 3. Root 25 goes to 5 root 3. And then we also said if we divide, so if we've got root 100 over root 4, that's the same as root of 100 over 4, which is root 25, and we know that's 5. So, let's try question 1. So first of all, have a look. Root 6 times by root 24 minus root 6. Well, this looks like I can simplify. Let's do this to one side. Root 24, what is it? Think of your square numbers. 6 fours are 24. So root 6, root 4. And that becomes, root 4 becomes 2, so 2 root 6. Now if I replace that in there with 2 root 6, so 2 root 6 minus root 6 goes in there. Well, I can do that, can't I? I know what 2 root 6 take away root 6 is. That's just root 6. So I've got root 6 times by, and in the bracket, root 6. So, using the rules again, root 6 times root 6 is, well, we know here, I put the wrong sign there, sorry. We know here that root 3 times root 3 is 3. So root 6 times root 6 is 6. So the answer to that whole thing becomes 6 at the end. And that's the type of questions you're going to get at GCSE. They like them to simplify down to something like that. Right, this next one's a little bit different. This one and this one can't simplify anymore because it's gone down to 2 and 3. There's nothing else that goes into those apart from 1. So you're going to have to just expand out this one. So remember how to expand brackets? New method. Or you could use grid multiplication. So you could do a little grid. You could put the root 3 there. And you could put 2 root 2 and minus 2 root 3. If you want to do, if that's the way you do brackets. So root 3 times 2 root 2. I'm going to write that out. Root 3 times by 2 root 2. That's the first one. Second one is root 3 times minus 2 root 3. So root 3 times minus 2 root 3. Don't forget the sign, just like when we do in algebra, you don't forget the sign that's in between. So let's have a go at this. Well, we do the roots. Root 3 times root 2, we know is root 6, using the rules. And then you just got a 2, and there's a 1 there, so that's just 2. Next one, root 3 times minus 2 root 3. Well, if it's root 3 times root 3, we know that's 3. And then you've got 1 times minus 2. It's just minus 2, isn't it? So minus 2 times 3, which is minus 6. As you would do with algebra, put those two bits together. 2 root 6 minus 6. And that's your answer done. Number 3. So 5 root 3 times by 2 root 3. That's the first part. We've just done some of them in clip 115. And then the second one is 5 root 3 times by minus 3 root 7. So 5 root 3 times 2 root 3. 5 times 2 is 10. Root 3 times root 3, that's just 3. So that's 30. Then 5 root 3 times minus 3 root 7. Do the numbers first. 5 times minus 3, minus 15. And root 3 times root 7, which is root 21. Now that might look big, but can you simplify? So remember what we were doing when we're simplifying. Can we find a square number that goes into root 21? Well, there is no square number that goes into root 21. If you want to double check, just write your square numbers down the side. So we need to go up to 21 for this question. Right, so none of them go in. 9 doesn't go in either. So that's the final answer for that question. Right, next one. 1 plus root 2 times 2 minus root 2. So this time it's a double bracket. So up to there is single brackets. And then the ones towards the end are double brackets. So just as you would normally do double brackets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take one step at a time. Do one multiplication. So remember, this means multiply. Just like if you had like x plus 1, x plus 3. It's the same process you're going to use. So first one, 1 times 2. Next one, 1 times minus root 2. Next one, root 2 times 2. And the fourth one is root 2 times minus root 2. So first one, 1 times 2, 2. 1 times minus root 2 is minus root 2. Root 2 times 2 is 2 root 2. And the last one, minus root 2 times root 2. Well, we know root 2 times root 2 is 2, and then it'll be minus because a plus times a minus is a minus. You've then got to try and put all them together. Let's start with the numbers. 2 minus 2, well that's 0. And then 2 root 2 minus root 2, which is just root 2. So like the first question where I said it simplifies right down to a number, this one simplifies right down just to one root. I know that's difficult. Okay, last example. So same as question 4. Draw your lines on. And then 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times minus 2 root 2. 7 times minus 2 is minus 14 root 2. Third one, 2 root 2 times by 7 is 14 root 2. And the last one, 2 root 2 times minus 2 root 2. So the most complicated one till the end. Right, so these parts to this question, we've had similar things as questions before. So this one you do 2 times minus 2, minus 4. And then root 2 times root 2, which is just 2. So that's minus 4 times 2, which is minus 8. So if you notice, these two here cancel each other out. 14 root 2 minus 14 root 2 is 0. Then 49 minus 8 is just 41. Okay, so that's all the examples. That side here I've done your turn. So I've done 3 questions. If you can have a go at these 3 questions, pause the video and then I'll put the answers on. Okay, hopefully you've had a go at those questions. So first one, root 2 times root 8 is root 16, which is 4. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. So you've got 4 plus 2, which is 6. Second one, 5 root 8 times 2 root 8. 5 2s are 10. And then root 8 times root 8 is 8. So that's 10 times 8, which is 80. And then 5 root 8 times minus 3 root 2. So the first part will be 5 times minus 3, which is minus 15. and then root 8 times root 2, which is root 16. Root 16 is 4, so that becomes minus 60. So you get 80 minus 60, which is 20. And the last one, first part, 3 root 2 times 2 root 2. Well, 3 times 2 is 6, root 2 times root 2 is 2, 6 2s are 12. 3 root 2 times 5 is 15 root 2. And then minus 1 times 2 root 2 is minus 2 root 2. And finally, minus 1 times 5 is minus 5. And then simplify. 12 minus 5 is 7. And then 15 root 2 minus 2 root 2 is 13 root 2. And that's positive. So 7 plus 13 root 2. Let me write that down there. Okay, so if you need any other help, I would go back over this clip, start from the beginning, and work through all the questions. It may be worth even doing the question, write the question down that I've got, have a go yourself before I do the solution on there. Okay?